There's only room for one nation state to buy up 20% of the network. And obviously, I think it should be the United States. I think it will be the United States. The way to think about Bitcoin is it's the most powerful digital network in the world. It's a way for us to enrich ourselves and emerge as a creditor nation in a matter of a decade. Hundreds of trillions of dollars of capital. It's also a way for us to ensure that we're the economic leaders in cyberspace and the digital economy for the next 100 years. And if we do that, every one of our allies will follow us, and then all of our enemies will end up having to buy into the network once it passes 10 or 20 million a coin, and they will enrich us.
Just this week, we saw President Donald Trump giving his thoughts and predictions for Bitcoin and the crypto market, as well as Bitcoin bull Michael Saylor discussing why the United States will be the leader in crypto with a staggering 20% of the overall supply of Bitcoin. As the crypto capital of the world, Saylor says a strategic Bitcoin reserve is necessary and sees more all-time highs in price in the coming months. Bitcoin's price sits just over 96,400, still up over 90% year-to-date. Bitcoin is poised to see a monumental surge, historically tracking the price in the year following the Bitcoin halving and on the heels of multiple all-time highs. Saylor believes Bitcoin is about to make history, with thousands of institutional investors across the United States now buying Bitcoin. The demand for the leading digital asset has increased exponentially, and Saylor says everything is about to change. Drop your comments down below and subscribe if you enjoy the content we do here.
This nation became great because of the Louisiana Purchase. We bought a third of the country from Napoleon for a few $1 million. Then we purchased Texas and California from the Mexicans for a few million more. Then we purchased Alaska from the Russians for a few million more. We didn't even know there'd be $1 trillion of mineral rights underneath Alaska when we purchased it. They called it Seward's Folly. But what I'm describing is manifest destiny. If you want to create a great nation, you have to build it on valuable property. You have to know, where is all the money headed? Where is the future? When we bought California, we didn't know there'd be a Hollywood. We didn't know there'd be a Silicon Valley. No one really considered. In 1867, we didn't have a petroleum industry. And so where is the money headed in the future? The money's headed to cyberspace. Bitcoin is property in cyberspace. The manifest destiny of this country is to own cyberspace. And I think that President Trump understands the value of owning scarce, desirable property. If we go to cyberspace and we buy Bitcoin and the nation embraces Bitcoin, then all of the capital in the world, all of the Chinese money, all the Russian money, all the European money, all of the money from the 20th century, the money invested in a Siberian warehouse, the money invested in fill in the blank, anything you could possibly own in Africa, all of that capital is flowing into cyberspace. It's going from physical to digital. It's flowing from the 20th century to the 21st century. Bitcoin represents digital capital. That network is $2 trillion today. It's going to be $20 trillion in 4 to 8 years. It's going to be $200 trillion in 20 years. Then it's going to grow faster than every other asset in the world. It's going to continue to grow. The United States should own it. President Trump understands property. He understands the value of Greenland. He understands the value of Alaska. He understands the value of oil rights. He understands drill, baby, drill would be impossible if we didn't own the land. The way to think about Bitcoin is it's the most powerful digital network in the world. It is cyber power. If you want to dominate the next 100 years, just like the last 100 years is based upon dominating sea power, firepower, air power, space power, nuclear power. You want to dominate cyberspace. You want cyber power. It's the unstoppable network that no one can corrupt. And the use of the unstoppable network, among other things, is hundreds of trillions of dollars of capital moving from point A to point B. But the other use of the network is I can send a message which is unstoppable, and I can store information that is unstoppable, and I can prove beyond a shadow of a doubt the authenticity of an instruction or a document. No country, no company, no individual, not a trillion computers can corrupt that message. So if you want to own the future, you want to own cyberspace. How do you own cyberspace? You own Bitcoin, and then you run the Bitcoin networks. You mine Bitcoin, you own Bitcoin.
Saylor challenges the conventional macroeconomic metrics, asserting that these metrics are often manipulated to paint a specific narrative, like labor statistics and inflation figures. The ongoing adoption of Bitcoin by governments, institutions, and media signifies a broader recognition of its value. However, Saylor asserts this journey is just beginning, comparing the initial years to the current widespread interest and investment, with a giant spotlight on Bitcoin ETFs. Saylor highlights this being a significant development in the financial ecosystem.
One principle is integrity, and the other principle is sovereignty. The integrity, we all know, is there'll never be more than 21 million Bitcoin, and that's enforced by millions and millions of computers and hundreds of millions of people everywhere in the world that believe it's not okay to lie, cheat, or steal. It's not okay to distort the truth. There is a truth. There is a universal common ledger that no one can tamper with, no one can corrupt, not a nation state, not a company, not a politician. And that idea of a censorship-resistant, unstoppable version of the truth was a first in human history.
It was a first.
And then the second idea is sovereignty. It's like, well, if there is a truth, can you own it? Right? So with Bitcoin, the idea is you can own a Bitcoin and you don't have to trust a bank with it. You don't have to trust the city with it. You don't have to leave it in the custody of a big company. You can take self-custody. So we oftentimes say, what do you own? The only thing you own are your memories. Everything else in this world that you own at the pleasure of someone more powerful than you, and they can take it away from you via force. What they can't take away from you is your experience and what's in your head. And the brilliance of Satoshi was, what if we could put all of the money in the world into the heads of the people? What if what you knew was the password to unlock all of your wealth or protect it, and nobody else could take it away from you? And that's a profound shift, because what Satoshi did was gave us a network where hundreds of millions of people can own and control their economic energy in a censorship-resistant, unstoppable fashion. And that was an idea worth nothing for a year, and then it became worth $1 million, and then it became worth $1 billion, and then it became worth $10 billion, and then it became worth $100 billion. And when MicroStrategy, now Strategy, got into business about 4 years ago, it was worth $150 billion. And today it's worth $2 trillion. This is the challenge that 40 million companies in America have, which is, if you're not one of the Magnificent Seven, if you're not Apple or Google or Microsoft, how are you supposed to compete in a world where trillion-dollar companies have all the power, big banks have all the power, big government has the power? And Bitcoin offered us the way out, because if you recapitalize a company on Bitcoin, you're not slave to the bank, you're not slave to the currency, you're not slave to the local politician that tells you what you can do and how you can use your money. Instead of having the central bank take interest rates to zero and keep them there forever, right? Bitcoin gave us a 60% return every year, because the Bitcoin interest rate is set by a global decentralized system of capital flows. So my company was able to save itself when we switched from Bitcoin, from the U.S. Treasury or the bond to Bitcoin. Our market cap increased from $1 billion to $100 billion. And our enterprise value increased from $600 million to $105 billion. And we went from a $500 million company growing 0% a year, competing against a monopoly, Microsoft, where it's hopeless, to a $50 billion company growing 60% a year that's part of the digital economy.
In this context, Bitcoin emerges as an alternative, detached from the manipulations of the conventional economic sphere. Saylor also highlights that established corporations like Apple, Amazon, and Google will use their established relationships acquired over decades to swiftly acquire substantial amounts of Bitcoin through a spot ETF, bypassing the cumbersome processes involved in procuring the actual commodity. This disparity underscores the transformative power of cryptocurrencies in traditional financial institutions. Michael Saylor underscores the importance of embracing digital currencies as the economic landscape is changing rapidly, and urges investors to leverage Bitcoin's potential to secure a more prosperous financial future. What do you think about the latest interview with Michael Saylor? And how do you think Bitcoin's trajectory in the coming months will impact the crypto market and the world of investing? Comment down below. Thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe for more content just like this.